when you're out there flying, you're cruising along, you're bored out of your skull and looking for something fun to do. So you take both of your sticks and push them straight up. Then you push one up and one down. Then both of them straight out to the side. And then the last critical, fatal mistake you make is you take both of your sticks and pull them down and into the center. And what's gonna happen? Your drone is gonna fall out of the sky and break in a dozen pieces because you're gonna disarm it. It's called a CSC. You only want to use that when you're arming the bird to take off. Do not pull both sticks down into the middle or down and out, because some birds will also disarm the motors even in flight. Mistake number 2 is a mistake a lot of guys make too, and that is, you keep your drone in a case. You take it out, you put your gimbal on, you put your camera on, you put your props on. Well, most of the props out there nowadays are self-tightening. So they just figure they can tighten down the prop, give it a little snug, or if it's the click-on style like the Inspire has, you just push down, do a half turn, and they're locked in place. What they're not doing though is once you push down and turn to lock them in place, pull up on them. Pull up on the prop, wiggle it back and forth, and you'll feel that positive lock. Because guys get out there and they just assume that since the props are self-tightening, they're just going to get tighter and tighter. But remember, when you're flying along hauling ass your first pass and you hit the brakes, the props will actually stop momentarily while it's auto-correcting itself. And when it makes that hard stop, the prop can continue to spin right off your drone. So make sure your props are locked. Mistake number 3, return to home. You get way out there somewhere, like maybe even beyond line of sight, and you're behind the trees or back behind buildings or whatever, and you lose signal. What's the drone gonna do? It's gonna go into an auto return to home. So when it does head home, if it's below 60 feet off the ground, this is in general, it's going to raise up 20 feet before it heads home. If it's above 60 feet off the ground, it's not gonna raise up at all. It's just going to head home. Now, if there's a 10-story building in the way, it does not give a rat's ass. It's gonna fly right through that building. And you better hope it's a parking garage, because it's just got to keep on going. And if something's in the way, you are screwed. Go into the settings and manually set your return to home height at 150 feet. Now, 150 feet is definitely going to be above power lines, above the tallest trees, etc. So it's just a good practice to get into. Mistake number 4 is an auto landing that you have no control over. And that's because pilots are getting out there and they're getting a low battery warning and just figuring, oh, I know I've got at least 3 more minutes to fly. And so they keep on flying. Then it goes to critical low battery warning and you figure, well, I can start heading home now, but you're just a little bit too far out. And the drone decides, screw you, buddy, I'm landing right here. It's going to keep going down. In most cases, you'll still have pitch and yaw control, but you have no control over its descent. You can't force it to rise back up again. It's going to land. By the way, if you've got an expensive drone, I recommend you get over there and order the Marco Polo tracker. And it'll save your ass one of these days when your drone goes bye-bye. Holy crap! It's way out there! Flying your drone that far away is beyond line of sight. And that's what a lot of pilots do. They get cocky, especially the noobs. They figure, oh, I can fly it right here. I must be able to fly it way the frickin' hell out there. Remember, you can't see the aircraft anymore. Everything is visual on your tablet. So one of the mistakes they make is they decide, well, I'm a little bit close to this tree, so I'll back up. That's where they just made their mistake, backing up and not being able to see what the hell's right behind them. So they run into buildings or trees or power lines. I did it. If you are gonna fly way the hell out there, go scout the area first. See what's out there. Know where you're flying, or keep it in line of sight. The next mistake that some guys will make is if you go to land it somewhere other than its return to home location, don't forget, cancel the return to home before you start landing it anyplace else other than its original return to home spot. Got it? Good. The next bad mistake that pilots will make is just sheer brain fart. And that's flying in an environment that is just not a safe place to fly. You're either around a bunch of tall buildings, there's power lines over there and power lines over there, or you're in the middle of a thick forest or whatever. Look at me here. There's nothing to frickin' hit out here anywhere. So fly in an open area, or at least try to. And if you're around a congested area, scout it out first before you take off. Braking distance. A lot of guys get out there and they're flying around hauling ass, and all of a sudden they turn to the right and there's a freaking telephone pole. It's called inertia. Aircraft or a drone, it's gonna take a certain amount of time before it comes to a complete stop. Know how long it's gonna take the aircraft to stop, because if you're hauling ass at 25 or 30 miles an hour and all of a sudden you see that telephone line in front of you, chances are by the time you see that telephone line, it's too late. You're going to hit it and you're heading for the ground, buddy. Give it plenty of time for braking distance to allow you to stop. I see this happen all the damn time. It's when you're taking your prop guards off. When you put your prop guards on, they come with a longer screw. So you put that longer screw in there to give it enough length to grab a hold of the threads down inside of there. But then 3 months later, you think you're some hotshot badass pilot and you don't need prop guards anymore. So you take your prop guards off and you put those screws back in there and you take off, and all of a sudden you see the thing start smoking. It's because you use those long screws to put back in the aircraft. Remember, if you take your prop guards off, you have to switch back to the short original screws that it came with. If you put the long screws in there, it's going to hit the motor windings in the motor and short out all 4 of your motors. You're going to have destroyed those motors and you're going to have to replace every single one of them. So make sure you switch back to the short screws if you take your prop guards off. The biggest mistake that a rookie can make is getting freaking cocky. Remember, as long as the aircraft is pointed away from you, your left is your left and your right is your right on your sticks. But as soon as you turn the aircraft to face you, now your left is your right and your right is your left. So that's the mistake they make. They turn it toward them, they start pushing forward, and they start turning right. The aircraft's going left, they start panicking, and they, oh shit! And they've hit a tree. Remember this tip. Always imagine yourself sitting in the cockpit. You're sitting in the aircraft. That way, when you're flying toward you, you're picturing yourself in that aircraft, and you know which way is going to turn the aircraft left. All right, there's 2 more I want to mention to you real quick. One is, be careful when you're flying indoors. if you're in a gym or you're in your freaking living room or whatever, and it's raining like hell outside and you just can't freaking wait to get your drone off the ground and you take off in your living room, you gotta remember, you have no GPS, or most of the time you don't. So it's relying on its onboard sensors. If you're lucky, the sonar optical flow sensor on the bottom of the aircraft, some of them do now, so they're measuring the carpet texture or your wood floors, and they know how far they are off the ground and what position they're in, and they'll hold their position pretty well. But remember, it doesn't have GPS lock, so it can drift. You can easily hit the wall or the lamp or your Uncle Fester over there or whatever. So be careful when you decide that you want to fly indoors with a 450 size quad, because it isn't as easy as it is flying it outdoors. Trust me on that one. And this last one is just for you guys who want to try flying waypoints. The first mistake that a rookie makes is they set their first waypoint way out there, like, 500 feet. Then their second waypoint, their third waypoint, etc. But what they failed to remember is that the drone is sitting on the ground. As soon as you hit launch, it doesn't know to go up and then over to one. It just knows, oh, I gotta go over there. So it just takes off across the ground and gradually rises up to waypoint number 1 at 110 feet or whatever you have it set at. While it's trying to climb up to waypoint number 1, there's a tree or a car or a building in between you and waypoint number 1, so you run right into it, all right? So make sure your first waypoint and your last waypoint are directly over your head. Don't forget, go on over to acesdeals.biz and buy anything. You can buy something for $3, whatever he's got over there, a battery or a set of prop guards, whatever, because you'll be entered to win one of 4 terrific drones on tax day, April the 15th. Peter and I are going to give one lucky random customer from his website, either going to be your choice, a Pro Drone Bird, an Autel X-Star, a unique Typhoon H, or the Traxxas Aton trainer drone. You get your pick. That's gonna do it for these tips and stupid ass things that a lot of drone pilots do, including me in the past. Jim Bowers here, Demon Seed, a little bit broken, but I'm still at it. All right, you guys, have a good evening. Don't forget, kiss the wife for me, make it a wet one, and give your Nana a big hug. Tell her you love her.